Hi, LaDonna Coy here, and welcome to a video podcast that we recorded via Skype. And today's guest has joined us from Danvers, Massachusetts, and our topic for today is Facebook for Coalitions. Now, I'm going to tell you there's a little bit of a strange thing about the feed. One is that the left side of the feed is static. That's my part of the feed. I tried to make a little bit of an adjustment on the fly, and I failed at it, so I do apologize to you for that. The good news is the right side of the feed is Jason, and being the expert that he is, you'll enjoy that part of the feed. So come join us for a conversation about Facebook for Coalitions. It sounds good. I'm LaDonna Coy with Learning Chi, and I have with me today Jason Verhusky, my good friend and colleague, who has his own design business, Streaming Creative, and he also is Danvers Care's Community Liaison and Youth Program Coordinator. So, Jason, hey.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. I met Jason a couple of years ago at the CADCA Midyear Training Institute, and we've had a lot of opportunities since then to work together, gratefully so. And I consider him the premier authority on this topic for coalitions. So, Jason, thanks for taking the time to be with me today, and I'm really delighted that you're going to talk about this because it's something that's really important to the coalitions.
I'm happy to be here. Happy to be here.
We've talked a lot about social media, and it's relatively new for a lot of adults who have grown up and been educated in kind of the industrial information age. And now with social media, we're kind of into this participation age or interaction age. And it seems to me that Facebook may be the best example of this kind of age of participation with some 600 million people active, and which is, I guess, about twice the population of the United States. So it's a lot of people. So what I want us to focus on, let's look at the questions that you get most often from coalitions and some of your best tips for how to make the move into that space. So
Sure.
Take it away and tell us a little more about what you get.
Absolutely. No, when coalitions are often very interested in using Facebook and using social media in general. And one of the main reasons why is because they do hear one of the facts that you just threw out there, that there's about 600 million registered active users on Facebook now.
Yeah.
So it's just a great way to reach out and be able to hopefully effectively talk to your community and communicate and find out what's going on. But especially with the coalitions, one of the biggest questions I get is, A, how do you get started, especially if it's something that's brand new to you? And B, once you do get started, what do you do with it? Because those two things are really the first questions that people have. And we talk a lot about it. It's really simple. It's really intuitive just to sign up, walk through. As you know, from CADCA, we have some great wikis and some different tools that we have out there to really help people walk themselves through and get signed up and get started.
Right.
And then once they do, it's really those first steps of really using it to interact with people and not necessarily to just broadcast or shout out your message to people, but to really use it to talk to people within your community, find different ways to link up to people, find out what they're concerned about, and also use it to really not only communicate but to listen and most definitely to interact. Yeah. I would definitely say those are some of the first key stages in starting your social media presence. In addition to that, one of the other huge questions that we always get is how to get people to interact with you and how to get people to like your page and to become somebody who's going to be readily looking at the information you're putting out there, potentially interacting and commenting with you. And it's really it's different in every community is one of the things I say. But one of the things that we definitely encourage people to do is to make sure that you're integrating social media into your overall communication plan and make sure that it's really a part of all your communications. So if you're sending out print media, whether it be stationery, postcards, newsletters, whatever, that you always mention that you are on Facebook and to like them or to find them on Facebook. Create one of the little stickers or logos that you can get, find one online and borrow it, and find different ways to go about telling people that you have a Facebook presence so that they come along and start interacting with you there. In addition to that, make sure that it's you send people there via links. So if you have an e-newsletter or anything like that, that you get them there via the link to be able to comment and have that conversation back and forth. And lastly, one of the largest recommendations as far as getting people engaged with you on Facebook is if you're working with youth, to definitely utilize the youth you're working with. So if you have a youth leadership group or any form of SAD chapter, anything you're using to reach out to the youth as far as your coalition is concerned, talk to those kids because there's a very good chance that they're on Facebook. that they have hundreds, if not thousands, of connections already of people within their community and their peers that you're trying to reach with your messaging, and you're trying to interact with as well, and have them either comment on the page, recommend the page to other people, and really have them give the opportunity to help you network and to build the page and build your presence within Facebook and other social media tools as well.
So get online, get into the space. You'll want to spread that in the variety of places that you are online or offline, actually both. To weave that together a little bit so people can find you and access you and friend you and follow you and all those things and interact with you, which I think is the biggie.
And that definitely leads right into the next largest question that I probably receive from coalitions is, once they're online, they've gotten comfortable, they've gotten permission to get on Facebook, they set up a presence, hopefully they set themselves up a page, and not a profile, which we'll talk more about and you can cover in some of the other tools we have.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, they get themselves all set up, and then they even get some people interested. So maybe they have their coalition members online and they're following them. They have some community members, maybe they have some other coalitions following them as well. Is now that I have these people here, now that I have this, what am I going to post? How do I get people to actually interact with me? Because a lot of times people are saying, I'm using it for events. I'm posting our meetings. I'm posting our minutes. I'm linking press releases that we send out. I'm sending out campaign information, but they're not getting that give and take. They're not getting that interaction that they're looking for.
Yep.
So one of the things that I really recommend to people is it's kind of a three-pronged approach. Is one, always try to make things as open-ended as possible. Give people information, put facts out there, but always ask for that response and ask for that engagement. Whether it's you ask a question about what do you think at the end, you leave it open-ended, what's your experience with this, how does this make you feel, things of that nature. So you're really encouraging and engaging people to have that communication and to offer their opinions. The other thing that I really recommend is using different forms of media. So if you're going to try to tell a story in one way or another, or get people jazzed and engaged and really kind of fired up to talk about something, is if you can use video, use video. If you can use photos to tell a story, use photos. People like to learn in different ways. They're not always just going to look at text. And when you look through the newsfeed on Facebook, there's a lot of text. So a lot of times you're going to skim right over things if it's not something you're necessarily looking for. But if there's an interesting video clip or there's an interesting photo, you're going to stop and you're going to have that couple of seconds to grab somebody's attention and hopefully have them interact. And the other thing that I think really also spurs interaction and commentary is find other press articles or other videos that are of interest to your community and your coalition members that have to do with the work you're doing, but that potentially, especially with the coalitions with the underage alcohol and the underage substance use, I pull Google alerts in so that we're constantly getting feeds in on those topics. And if there's anything of interest or anything controversial of interest, to definitely post that to hopefully spark some conversation and get people going around what you're doing.
I like this whole notion of, especially the visuals, because you know how I am about that. I really appreciate the visuals. And the brain science teaches us that vision trumps all other senses. And so if all we're using is words, people have to see the letters, see the words, create that, and then figure out the meaning of that. So what they call the cognitive load is really high. And a lot of times they'll just skim right over it. Whereas if you've got a video or a picture, it captures your attention quickly, and then if you have a short bit of text or comment with that to invite people to get engaged with you, then I absolutely believe that works. I've seen it work many times, and when I practice it, it actually works pretty good for me too. So I
Absolutely.
hear you. That's great. Okay, any closing advice you have for folks? Any big question that you want to hit before we go?
The biggest tip or advice that I would have is people definitely ask, even once they're starting to do the open-endedness, they're starting to incorporate media, and occasionally it starts to drag for people, it starts to become just another thing to do, is be consistent. Consistency is hugely key in this. So if you're going to post daily, post daily. If you're going to post weekly, post weekly. Whatever system you have set up and whatever calendar you have set up, just make sure that you're following through. So try to post things that are of value as much as possible. Have fun with it. Have your own personality and your own messaging behind what you're doing. But be consistent. Stay at it, because this is incredibly valuable. it's one of the things where, especially our youth coming into this, that this is just communication. This isn't new communication. This isn't digital. This isn't Web 2.0. This is just the way that they work.
Yeah.
Make sure that you're utilizing it, because it's a great opportunity to communicate and to also to listen and learn about what's going on in your community. So be consistent, have fun, and get the message out there.
Okay. Sounds good. Well, thank you, Jason, so much for doing this. I know that coalitions can use this kind of advice as they move into Facebook and do this weaving. I also want to plug just a second that we're going to be working together along with Dr. Tom Workman and Sue Stein at the Midyear Institute, the Midyear Training Institute, out in Anaheim, California, later in July. So if people want to catch up with us, we're going to do a whole series of workshops, including some of the topics we've talked about here. You guys can find Jason at streamingcreative.com. He's also on danverscare.org. He's on Connected Communities, which is a peer-to-peer coalition network. He participates there. You can find him on Facebook. You can find him on Twitter. He is everywhere. If you put his name in a search engine, you'll get him.
You'll find me.
Yeah, so drop in, look him up in all the right places, and until next time, we'll see you online.